As we are moving towards the hustle culture, having a good retirement plan is a comfort that many of us seek. And for providers, giving a great customer experience is key to the success of the plan. A similar company that is into this industry is Congruent Solutions. Congruent Solutions offers plans providers and record keepers a self-service platform. Its comprehensive technology solutions and outsourcing services enables cost-effective plan setup and record keeping, efficient ongoing plan administration, or anything in between. To know more about the company and the key service that it's offering, I'm in conversation with Director and Co-Founder of Congruent Solutions, V Chandrasekaran. Hi, Mr. V Chandrasekaran. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your session.
So let's start the podcast on a great note with you giving us a brief about the company and the specializations it offers.
Thank you. And to start, actually, Congruent Solutions has been in the tech services industry for long. But Congruent Solutions is an organization exclusively focused on the retirement plan industry. And actually, as you know, retirement is a very, very key component of anybody's work life, or planning for retirement is a very key component of anybody's work life. And particularly in the Western world, it is becoming more and more important as the quality of life is improving, and then there is pressure on savings and so on. So what we really do as an organization is to help people who are in the working life prepare and plan better for a retired life, particularly in terms of their financial wellness through their savings for the retirement plans. So we focus on one area of the retirement industry called the defined contribution, which is similar to the PF kind of thing in Indian scenario. However, there is a lot of differences because it is reasonably privatized there, and then you have actually a lot of flexibility for the participants to save as per the defined contribution plan rules and so on. Broadly, we actually address tier 1 clients and larger size tier 2 organizations of the retirement industry. Though our product and services are applicable to global businesses, our current focus is on the US geography. And we are a product and services company, as it was initially introduced. We have a flagship platform called the Core platform, which actually provides a platform for the retirement plan providers and record keepers to actually enhance their operational efficiencies, as well as deliver better value to their customers and consumers. And we also have a services division where we actually provide administration services sitting from India. And I'm happy to say that we perhaps will be one of the most specialized organizations in the industry operating out of India, and have perhaps more knowledge about this industry than any other. And that is one of the reasons why we have many other large organizations partnering with us for our specialized capabilities. And the last part is actually we also, because we are in the technology space, we know the domain, there are also projects that we do, specialized technology projects that we do for large providers. And so these are broadly the set of services we do. And primarily, I would like to talk with reference to our values as an organization, which actually we also discern from by really talking to the market and then what they see as special about us. So the first value is we listen. We are a listening organization. We learn and we specialize. We actually invest a lot of our resources on making sure that our positioning as a specialist organization in this industry is actually right there up front for everybody to see. The second thing is we deliver on what we promise. And this has been a consistent thing in most of our clients. I would say all would have seen that whatever we've committed on the committed date, things will happen. And more importantly, I think an industry which is, fairly been there for a long time and has a lot of legacy. So one of the key things that we do is we actually believe in being ready for tomorrow. We are ready for tomorrow, which means that as an organization in Congruent, we are ready for tomorrow with our capabilities, with our products, with our services. And similarly, we also help our customers to be ready for tomorrow, to meet and our consumers to be ready for tomorrow for their retirement.
So to bring the company to where it is now, how did you and your role contribute to the entire process, let's say from innovation to setting up the right team dynamics in the company?
Actually, I'm one of the initial founders in the organization, and actually in the initial phases, we were like a general technology services provider. And then somewhere around 2003, 2004 timeframe is when actually we started. From 2000 onwards, we've been working on this industry. But we took a special plunge into looking at this segment seriously in 2004. And in 2017, we became an exclusive retirement industry focused organization. That's I'm just giving you a background in order to see what kind of roles I've played particularly. I am a co-founder, and earlier I was in the organization along with my partner interim for a few years. We actually had another venture jointly, with our partners set up. It was called Sequoia E-Services. I was involved in, as a founder and also running the organization from India for that. And we exited the venture, and then I came back to my parent or my where my heart was in terms of working with Congruent. So currently, I am in the role of Chief Strategy Officer, and basically, working to have an innovation-led product organization. And as you know, it's a big challenge to become a product organization in an environment, particularly in India, where it's been dominated by technology services organizations. So I believe that the very core of people have to be product oriented in a product organization. And mostly we get resources who are maybe services oriented, projects oriented. So that is really a DNA change. And I think I've been really working on making sure that we are really a sharp product organization, which is innovation-led. So I've been driving also the, conceptualization and also definition and development of the next generation of products and services to be ready for tomorrow. One of the key things is actually building a culture. We have an initiative called the Core Valley Culture, which is like, how do we really bring the best practices of the Silicon Valley into our own, contextualized to our Indian environment, to have a really a fine product organization, which is outcome-led, and so on. So that culture change is something which I've been driving. And of course, we have forerunners like, many SaaS and product companies like Zoho, have done a lot of work on that. And we actually try and learn and adopt some of those things into really contextualizing, building a product culture in the organization. And in terms of technology excellence, I think this industry, particularly what we focus on, is really, the domination is by the mainframe players for, software, which has been there for, several decades. So we actually are transforming into really having a scalable current technology architecture with microservices, have a SaaS-based model, and a lot of investments in AI, ML, DL, and also on blockchain. So these are some of the new technology initiatives, is something which I drive. And finally, the general organization development in terms of being ready to scale. So we've been growing fairly significantly over the recent years and having got a lot of traction. So to build and prepare the organization for high scale growth is the other area that I focus on.
Congruent Solutions on the whole is, as you said, is a product based company, or wants to be a very sharp product based company. So in that sense, how is Congruent Solutions contributing to the entire artificial intelligence industry in India?
See, one of the things is that AI is going to be a very, very dominant technology, and I think it is resurging in a big way from the early periods when we had different set of technologies as comprising artificial intelligence. In this new paradigm, actually, I think it is really, really something which is growing leaps and bounds. And I believe that there is no industry that's not going to be left out in this whole thing. So it has to be an important focus, and particularly for an organization like ours. So we have actually exclusive focus on the AI side, and then we have built a number of bots, products, as you may call it, that has addressed some of the very, very critical needs in the industry. So I'll first give a few examples before saying that how it has kind of impacted our customers, as well as maybe the ecosystem here and so on. In small ways, I would say. So one of the things that our product does is actually, we take, as you know, we are in the retirement industry, and then, the key component of the retirement industry in our area, which is defined contribution, is out of payroll, people contribute, or the monthly or bi-monthly payrolls that, people contribute savings into the retirement plans. And this data actually comes into the systems, which our systems, and in the provider environment. So one of the things that really happens, therefore, there's a lot of data. You can imagine that everybody who works, the working population, and whoever is subscribed to the retirement plans, on an average, at least that twice some payroll data is going to come into the system, which is a huge amount of data. So very well, and this is a very heterogeneous environment where data comes from several sources, and there is always a key problem in terms of really getting them quality data, because there is a lot of errors might creep in the inputs. So one of the key requirements is to really manage the quality of data that comes in. And this is a big challenge for the industry, because once the payroll data comes, it has to be processed, really time bound, and then any corrections, everything has to be done in time. Therefore, trades can be done at the right time, and then people can be credited with their amounts. So we saw this challenge and then wanted to really look at error patterns in the incoming data for our customers, and then built a bot for identification and auto correction of errors. So this is one of the first bots that we developed, and which actually really we have actually benchmarked it to be around 90% accurate in terms of being able to, in fact, 98% accurate in identifying the errors. And then on the correction front, it is like about 85% accuracy, depending upon the client situation. So this is one of the key components which actually have drastically reduced the effort required at the client end. Also, from the sponsor point of view, because he doesn't have to sit and correct data and so on. So this is been one of the early use cases that we identified and did. And similarly, actually, what happens is, because there are so many payroll providers, so many options where data coming, there are formats of the files on which they are coming are all very, very different. And it requires, typically today, some of the old systems, it perhaps takes, days and weeks for them to set up a new format and structure for the data to come in. So now we have a tool called the Mapper, and also we have a AI-based bot which automatically identifies the data that is coming into the system and then maps it to a very great extent. And therefore, actually, what used to be done in weeks can be done in perhaps less than an hour or even less than that for testing and then going through the system. So this is another very big productivity AI bot that we actually worked on. And a third one is we actually partnered with an organization and created a AI digital assistant where actually you can type or speak, and then you'll be able to actually get responses right there. So one of the big areas of cost for some of our customers is in terms of the call center, and calls coming into the call center is a lot of operating costs. So what this digital assistant does is drastically takes away and drives self-service for people to really get most of it answered through the AI digital assistant. And lastly, actually, even on enhancing the user experience, we have a project for actually going to the next generation of user experience for us. Like, for instance, inspired by, Amazon or iOS. Why we say this is because Amazon is not an online shopping, option. It's actually a different shopping, experience, which drove all shopping to there actually. So it's a completely reimagined, phenomenally executed, experience, crafted experience for the users. So we were inspired by that. What do we do in terms of really taking the thing to the next generation? So one of the small things that we've done on the AI is actually look at usage statistics of the people and the system. Depending upon the date and time in which they actually log into the system, it actually predicts what are they likely to do, and therefore brings up those things upfront in terms of their usage. So that's actually like an AI-assisted interaction experience. So these are some of the initiatives that we've had on the AI side, and in doing so, actually, we are really not a specialized AI company. So, but we have a lot of, a few people who have a great amount of, experience in general, and also specifically on the AI side, and also ideas about how to leverage it in our domain. So we work with the partners. We work with independent developers as well as smaller organizations where we actually do that. And some of these bots have been actually done in collaboration. So therefore, I think we are leading some development effort in our domain by engaging with other partners who have got the expertise and also the skills to do that, which we direct and get it done. So that is one small contribution in terms of building the ecosystem of development capability around us, and with real use cases, with real deep knowledge in the domain that we are talking about. So that is, I think, significant and I'd like to highlight.
So out of all the services and the innovations that you've mentioned, is there a key service that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So primarily, actually, we are into, broadly three buckets as key focus areas. One is the product, the core-based products and product-based services. The second thing is outsourced retirement administration services, which actually we run, we can do end-to-end of all administrative services for a service provider in the US, or a retirement plan provider in the US. So that is the second bucket. The third bucket is, as I earlier also touched upon, in terms of our retirement technology services. We do specialized projects because of our deep knowledge on the industry as well as technology expertise. We are considered as some of the, in fact, they prefer us over anybody else in terms of doing a certain class of technology products, technology services work. So having said that, actually, one of the things we are doing going forward is in terms of actually work. We already have a SaaS strategy in terms of reaching out to the mid-sized segment in the US. In addition, actually, we are also working on what's called BPaaS, Business Process as a Service, where we combine our core platform as well as our own administrative services capability to provide business process as a completely managed service without technology, without people, without processes. So I think that's that overall general direction. Having said that, in terms of a really star thing that you talk about, what kind of a set of services that we are really known for. On the admin side, actually, there is one of the most complex processes is called compliance testing. And it is a compliance requirement in the US that every sponsor will have to actually go through, mandated by the federal agencies in the US. And that's a very specialized thing where you need a lot of knowledge about the audit. Even in the US, the people who get involved in compliance testing are people with about 10, 15 years of industry experience or something like that. So what we have really done successfully is actually created a fairly large pool of administrators who are very, very knowledgeable in compliance testing. And we actually work with some of the tier 1 vendors. In fact, vendors who actually dealt with many other large BPO and tech services organizations, and they already have teams working with them. And yet, when it comes to compliance testing, we are a vendor of choice, a preferred vendor for some of them. So that is one area which is like a flagship, clearly head and shoulders above anybody else, at least from this part of the world, in terms of being able to address that. So, and having said that, this is really, and also it contributes to a fairly, significant chunk on the administrative services revenue on our side. But doesn't mean we, in fact, have deep knowledge and breadth of knowledge as well as the industry in a way that actually we handle and every part of the administrative service for retirement industry. On the other side, actually, our core platform is actually to be seen as a middleware platform. It's not like it needs to replace your record keeping system. What it does is actually it can replace your system in a kind of a progressive way and in a meaningful way. And we actually enhance the record keeping services and provide better processing and data management capability, and also the sponsor and participant experience. So therefore, actually, we are like an enhanced middleware and front end touch provider with with mobile as well as web access to sponsors and participants. So in that side, if you really look at it, I think there's very, very significant strength in our product suite. Also is our ability to do data management with, we have a specialized ETL tool called Mapper, which has been built only for this retirement industry, specifically a lot of rules written for the retirement industry. So with that, actually, we do, integration, data integration services with many, many systems, their own, because every provider typically has several systems working. They will have their CRM, they will have other accounting systems, their own record keeping systems as well. So connecting all of them together, actually, we will be able to do the integration very well with this, and also provide our own core suite on products on top of it to do that. So that data management part, wherein also we can provide additional services. Like one of the problems in the industry is actually what's called conversions. Like people have to actually move plans from maybe earlier service provider to the current service provider, or they might buy a book of business. So how to really move the plans very swiftly to the new platform, actually, because that requires a lot of data management and also knowledge about the plan rules, how to be set up and all that. So those are areas where actually we are well known in terms of being able to handle data management, and also with the knowledge of the industry and plans and plan rules and things like that. So if you really look at it, I think our strength is in our domain knowledge, and we developed it over years. The challenges that we really faced was actually it takes a long lead time for us to really work with some of the clients. The reason is they've been companies which are very large, and we are relatively young compared to some of the competition that we have in the field, and therefore actually for them to realize the value and the trust factor and the stability that we bring in as well takes time. And typically the industry is conservative and takes long time to decide on things. So, and fortunately, I think because we've been actually members of, to give you an idea, we are in the board of Spark. Spark is actually one of the leading forums for all the premium providers, tier one providers in the US. It's called Society for Pension Administrators and Record Keepers. So we are in the board of Spark, which is a premium organization, which is equivalent to an ASCOM in India or something like that, right? For this industry. So having worked with them, we've understood, they've seen us really, participate in some of the industry initiatives as well. So therefore, I think we have built our credibility in terms of being an organization of substance. So that is given, size used to be a relative disadvantage coming from India and things like that. So, but that again, because of our longevity and also our consistent focus on this segment, is we've been able to really be successful with direct sales to some of the tier one vendors. So we are really there. And today, if you really look at it, we have partnerships, at least 3 of the tier one tech services vendors, organizations in India are partners with us for addressing this segment, because we provide that specialized ability far beyond what they may be having. And from the other side, actually, they bring in strengths on the analytics area and the AI area. We can also leverage on from those as well. So we have partnerships with the tier one vendors here. So that's actually really contributes to being a win-win for us as well as those organizations, and increasing the our footprint in the retirement market globally.
So as Congruent Solutions is so in-depth in the industry with a lot of insights and partnerships and, tools being innovated, work in this industry, what according to you is the future of the industry in terms of the technology, in terms of how it is going to further elaborate the use of AI and data in its processes?
Okay, I think that's a great question, and particularly people who are outside of the industry always keep asking this. So clearly, I think this industry, as I told you, has been there for at least 3-4 decades, and has grown. And if you really look at the size of it, roughly about the direct contribution plans, which is relevant to us, the assets under management is of the size of roughly about anywhere between $12 and $15 trillion. Okay, so that's a fairly large amount that is being managed by the providers and various record keepers and so on. So they have relied on mainframe technology, and the costs of managing that has been only steadily increasing, and actually it's been very expensive relative to that. And what has also happened is the awareness in the industry and the pressure from the participants to reduce the fee or operating costs for managing these things has been real. So actually every provider is under pressure to reduce the operating costs, and therefore really one of the things that is going to happen is technology innovation and transformation in order to bring down the total cost of administration, including specifically on the technology side, because it's really technology led in terms of delivery in operations. So I think one of the things is going to be on the tech transformation. That's something which is happening in a big way. And in that is where actually our strategy of being ready for tomorrow with our current architectures of leveraging the cloud, leveraging cloud native services, and being on a microservices platform, and so on, actually really address that concern. The second thing that is happening in the industry is actually, even though that because of the technology, nature of technology that they've used until now, the experience, they have built sponsor or participant experience on their older platforms by only providing a front end, which is self-service capability. So, but over the years, if you really look at the sponsors or sponsor surveys that have been done by industry third-party analysts, it is very clear that the sponsor adoption in terms of self-service is very low still, and there is we can go a long way in terms of improving that. So that is where I think the focus on providing a much richer and experience for the sponsors and the participants, and making it really meaningful for them, taking into consideration the current scenario of pervasive social media, how much of mobile penetration and how much of their behaviors and usage is shaped by Android or iOS. These all actually make a lot of difference in terms of improving adoption of technology by the real consumers. And I think that's one area where it's going to go, and that's a direction we are also steering our platform towards. So modernization is going to be a very big thing in terms of really addressing operating costs, as well as adopting better user experience, stickiness of our customers, right? And so on. So the other big thing that is happening in the industry as we speak is one of consolidation, because of, and I think even the big players are merging and becoming even bigger players and so on. So, recent deals of Empower and so on, if you really look at it, there's a lot of consolidation that's happening even at the tier 1 level. So in one sense, the number of people at the high top end are reducing, but our way of really working with it is not really by number of customer instances, but more by number of participants we serve. So that is really relatively stable and growing. And the other side is actually there is some consolidation happening at the smaller side of the business as well. When that happens, it adds to the market of really having larger players who will actually have better technology adoption and therefore service the things better for the participants. So I think are into, we are actually very hopeful and quite excited about what's happening in the industry in terms of the opportunities that are showing up.
Great insights. So what our listeners want to know about next is, while Congruent Solutions was, innovating its unique chatbot, innovating a tool that is unique to the company, what challenges did the company go through, and what was the mindset that led to this sort of innovation?
Okay, so I think I'll tell the market side challenges first. So for a small company, relatively small, we're not very small, relatively smaller company as opposed to the tech service giants, to really get into the product business, invest lots of, in fact, we took the, if you really look back, there were people who said that we are mad to really put all our earnings and profits into really developing the core suite of products. But, always, as they say, your visionary, post many decisions that you take. So in that sense, actually, we took some very bold initiatives in terms of putting that. There was internal challenges. There are people in the industry who advised us, saying that it's a risky thing to do because we are actually forsaking all our margins and investing into the product and so on. And from there, actually, the biggest thing, we were very clear that we wanted to sell to the, really the top-notch players in the industry. So we were very clear that we need to really sell to the tier 1 vendors in the US. And that is a tough one. Just imagine that, building a product and making it solid enough that a tier 1 vendor with already established relationships with many large players, for them to trust you is a tall order. So we actually took time for breaking into that segment on our own to actually sell to the tier one vendors and tier one providers in the US. So that was a fairly large challenge. Steering that part in terms of keeping our board and the investors patient to trust us in our vision and then go after. That was actually a trying period, but now we can say that I think it was a decision well made and well conducted period in terms of all the key decisions that we undertook. So and really actually this segment is a well kept secret, because even some of the products and tech services players who could have actually gotten into the segment really did not identify. So in that sense, we had a head start for having taken that decision. And today we have the large players actually, working with us as partners to lead into some of those tier one accounts. So penetrating to the tier one accounts was a very big challenge for us. And we had to learn a number of things: how to build credibility, how to build the stability that is required in the product to be able to do that. How do we actually benchmark with the other established large old generation products? And how do we make sure that it is risk-free for some of the customers? So these are all things that we had to learn. And we had to actually do that. And in the process, we learned to cultivate industry relationships. We have some of the leading, consultants in the US as, consulting with us. Actually, we consult them for industry insights, product direction, strategy, and so on. So just to give you an idea, we knew this industry very well. Even when we started on the product, we did not start on the premise saying that, hey, listen, we know this industry, so we can develop the product. No, we actually appointed, a very senior a senior consultant in the US with a lot of operational experience to actually give the requirements for us in a formal way, so that we can start off with that. So that was important to really get, we cannot assume sitting in India that we know the market in the US, which we are trying to address. We need somebody as an insider to be part of our team. So these are things that was, somehow we innately, intuitively felt that we should be doing. And on hindsight, I think it worked out very well for us. From the delivery side, actually speaking, we started off at a time when we had absolutely nobody with any knowledge of the retirement industry. So from there, actually, today we have built a team where we have really, ASPA certified guys, certified administrators in our India center. And I don't think anybody can boast of the quality of talent that we have in terms of the retirement services. So to build the training capability, to build actually the processes around it, a lot of IP has gone into actually, we've created our own IP in terms of the training materials and the processes. And for instance, as I was talking about compliance testing, typically in the US, it's about 15 years experience or 10 to 15 years experience in that region for somebody to do the compliance testing service. But, we can't afford to have that. So we today actually, we have a material which actually in about 6 to 8 months, somebody can actually start working on compliance testing. That's the kind of, investment that we made in order to really fine tune on the training processes and delivery of those and developing the people, identifying what kind of resources and train them. So these are some of the challenges that we face in terms of building a workforce, which is really seen as specialists in tune with our values. And retaining them. On the product side, again, we have a great pool of resources in India, but all of them are tech services based. They're project oriented, and which is very, very different, diametrically different. Because if a customer engages you on developing a particular thing, it is a project. You actually mostly work on either a time and material basis or on a project fixed fee basis. Either which way, what really happens is you charge them for that time. So you really don't have any stake on the outcome. The outcome is with the person who contracted you. But on the product side, you are building it not for a client, but you're building it for the market. So that mindset of being able to really, work on that has to be in the DNA of the organization. The way that the product is engineered, the way it is, the code is constructed, and the way actually, it is deployed and monitored every which way. If you really look at it, a product company is a completely different organization from a services company. So to create a product organization from an ecosystem which has got only a large pool of tech services talent was a challenge, but I think we have reasonably addressed that with what we've done.
Right. So from choosing the right target audience for the services that Congruent Solutions offers, that is, tier 1 providers, and, crossing all the hurdles and the major challenges that came, during innovation. Thank you so much for your insights on this industry. And I'm sure our listeners got a lot of, thinking points.